You feel it before you understand it. Not fear, not danger. Something else, something heavier. The quiet certainty that you are living inside something that should not be possible. You wake beneath an open sky that stretches farther than any map you have ever seen. The empire around you does not feel like a country. It feels like the world itself. From the distant shores of the Pacific to lands you have only heard about in whispers near the edges of Europe, everything is connected by one force, one name, one legacy that began in 1206 when a man called Genghis Khan united the steppe and changed history forever. If you are a merchant, you travel farther than any of your ancestors ever dreamed. You move along the Silk Road without constantly looking over your shoulder. Caravans stretch across deserts and mountains, carrying silk, silver, spices, and stories. You hear languages from Persia, China, and lands even farther west, yet somehow it all flows through the same system, the same protection, the same order. This is what people begin to call the Pax Mongolica, and to you, it feels like the world has finally been stitched together. If you are a soldier, you feel something different: power, speed, control. You ride with men who can cross distances that others would not dare attempt. The cavalry does not move like a traditional army. It moves like a storm. You have seen cities fall not after long sieges, but after moments of terror that break them from within. The sound of hooves alone can empty walls. Enemies do not just fear defeat, they fear annihilation. And you know that reputation travels faster than any messenger. Even if you are just a farmer or a traveler passing through, you sense it. There is an order here, a system that holds together lands so vast they should collapse under their own weight. Yet, they do not. Not now, not yet. At its height, this empire stretches across roughly 23.5 million square kilometers. You cannot comprehend that number, but you can feel it in the endless roads, the constant movement, the idea that no matter how far you go, you are still inside it, still under it. And that is what unsettles you the most. Because nothing this large should feel this stable. Nothing built on conquest should feel this permanent. Yet here you are, living inside it, moving through it, benefiting from it. It feels unstoppable. It feels inevitable. It feels like it will never end. At first, it does not arrive as a collapse. It arrives as a whisper. You begin to hear things that do not fit the world you thought you understood. Quiet conversations in market corners, messengers riding harder than usual, soldiers speaking in lower voices than before. No one says it clearly, but you can feel it spreading. The great Khan is dead. In 1259, Mongol Khan dies during a campaign in southern China. There is no clear successor, and for the first time, you sense something you have never felt inside this empire before. Uncertainty. At first, life continues. Caravans still move, armies still exist, authority still appears intact, but beneath it, something is shifting. You hear that distant armies are turning back. Campaigns are being abandoned. Not because of defeat, but because every prince, every general, every branch of the ruling family is now looking inward. Then the tension breaks. Two names begin to dominate every conversation. Kublai Khan, Arik Bok, brothers, rivals, each claiming the right to rule everything you have believed was indivisible. You do not see the entire war, but you feel its consequences. Supplies slow down, loyalties become uncertain. The unity that once held the empire together starts to fracture, not in one place, but everywhere at once. What was once a single command begins to split into competing centers of power. By the time the conflict settles, something irreversible has happened. The empire is no longer one. It breaks into separate realms. The Golden Horde in the west, the Ilkhanate in the Middle East, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, the Yuan dynasty in China under Kublai. They still share a common origin, but they no longer act as one force. You can feel the difference. Coordination fades, trust weakens, distance grows wider than geography. And then comes something even more unsettling. You hear about a battle far away in 1260, a place called An Jalut. For the first time, a Mongol army is decisively stopped. Not delayed, not redirected, stopped. The news travels slowly, but when it reaches you, it does not feel like just another defeat. It feels like a boundary has been discovered. The empire can be resisted. At the same time, the world around you begins to feel heavier. In the lands of China, the system that once seemed so powerful starts to strain. Paper money circulates more widely, but its value becomes uncertain. Prices rise. Food becomes harder to afford. What once felt like order now feels unstable, like something being stretched too far. You notice it in small ways at first. A merchant asking for more than he did last year. A farmer worried about his harvest. A soldier paid with currency that does not carry the same weight it once did. Nothing has fully collapsed yet. The empire still stands. The roads are still open. But something is different now. The confidence you once felt has begun to fade. The silence between conversations lasts a little longer. And deep down, you start to understand something you never imagined before. This empire is not being broken from the outside. It is beginning to come apart from within. It does not collapse all at once. It closes in on you. At first, it is the sky. The seasons no longer behave the way they used to. Winters arrive harsher than anyone remembers. Cold that cuts deeper. Snow that lingers longer. In the north, you hear that entire herds are dying. Horses, sheep, cattle, frozen where they stand. Families forced to abandon the steppe and move south, searching for survival. Then the rains come. Too much. Too fast. In the south, rivers swell beyond control. Floods tear through fields that once fed millions. The Yellow River shifts its course, destroying farms, villages, and the fragile systems that kept the empire alive. You begin to understand that this is not just bad weather. Something larger is changing. Something no army can fight. And then, something invisible arrives. You do not see it at first. No armies, no warnings, just sickness. It spreads along the same roads that once carried silk and wealth. The same routes that made this empire powerful now carry death from one end of the world to the other. People fall ill without explanation. Entire communities vanish. Trade slows. Fear replaces movement. You hear the name whispered. The plague. The world that once felt connected now feels contaminated. Every traveler could carry death. Every city could become a grave. And in the middle of all of this, people begin to rise. Not foreign enemies. Not distant kingdoms. The people inside the empire. In China, where the population has endured famine, floods, rising prices, and disease, rebellion begins to take shape. What starts as scattered resistance grows into something far more organized. The Red Turban Rebellion spreads across the land, fueled by desperation and anger. You see it happen. Villages that once paid taxes now refuse. Local uprisings turn into armies. The authority that once felt absolute begins to disappear from entire regions. One name starts to rise above the chaos. Zhu Yuanzhang. He is not born into power. He comes from poverty, from loss, from the same suffering you see around you. And that is exactly why people follow him. His forces grow stronger, more disciplined, more determined with every passing year. Then comes the moment everything changes. The rebel armies reach Dadu, the imperial capital you once believed could never fall. The heart of Mongol power in China, the center of everything. And it is taken. The defenses fail. Control collapses. The last Yuan emperor, Togon Temur, does not stand and fight to the end. He cannot. The structure around him is already gone. He flees north, back toward the steppe, back to where this empire began. You realize what that means before anyone says it out loud. The empire has lost China. And without China, it has lost its center. Around you, everything that once felt permanent begins to unravel. The roads are no longer safe. The markets are no longer stable. The authority that once connected the world is no longer there. You are not hearing about the fall of an empire. You are living inside it. You do not understand the fall of an empire through maps or dates. You understand it through what it takes from you. At first, it is small things. Food becomes harder to find. Prices rise again, then again. What you could afford last year now feels out of reach. If you are a farmer in China, the floods have already taken part of your land. What remains is not enough. Yet the taxes do not disappear. They are still collected, still demanded, even as your harvest fails. You begin to ration without calling it that. smaller portions, longer gaps, quiet decisions made inside your home that no one speaks about. Then it gets worse. The rivers do not calm. The fields do not recover. Famine is no longer a threat. It is a reality. You see it in the faces around you, in the way people move more slowly, in the silence where conversation used to be. If you are in the north, among the Mongols, the suffering looks different, but it feels the same. The cold has taken the herds. Horses, sheep, cattle, the foundation of life on the steppe, are gone. Without them, movement becomes harder. Survival becomes uncertain. Families who once lived with confidence now struggle to endure each season. No one expected this, not from the land that once gave them strength. And then the sickness comes closer. You have heard about it for years. Stories traveling along the same routes that once carried wealth. Now it is here. People fall ill quickly. Fever, weakness, death that comes too fast to understand. It does not matter if you are rich or poor, soldier or civilian. The disease does not care. Entire households disappear. Streets grow quieter. Trade slows, not because of distance, but because of fear. Every interaction carries risk. Every stranger feels dangerous. If you are a soldier, the change is even harder to ignore. You remember what it felt like to ride with confidence, to believe that nothing could stop you. Now, you are no longer advancing into new lands. You are holding ground. You are reacting. You are surviving. The enemy is no longer just in front of you. It is everywhere. In the weather, in the food supply, in the people around you. And in China, resistance becomes something you can no longer ignore. The rebellions grow larger. Villages turn into strongholds. Groups of desperate people become organized forces. The Red Turban movement spreads because people have nothing left to lose. You see it in their faces. Not just anger, but exhaustion. A willingness to risk everything, because everything has already been taken. You begin to realize something that no one wants to say out loud. This is not just a political collapse. This is a human one. Families are gone. Livelihoods are gone. Certainty is gone. The empire that once connected the world now feels like it is breaking every life within it. And for the first time, you stop thinking about how powerful it once was. You start thinking about how much it has cost. When it ends, it does not feel like the fall of something distant. It feels like something has quietly disappeared from the world around you. The emperor is gone. You do not see the moment he leaves, but you feel the absence immediately. The court is empty. Authority no longer speaks with a clear voice. Toghon Temür, the last Yuan ruler in China, has fled north, back toward the steppe, back to where it all began. And with that, something breaks in a way that cannot be repaired. The land you once knew as part of a single empire is no longer connected. What remains of Mongol rule fragments into separate paths that no longer meet. The Ilkhanate in the Middle East had already collapsed decades earlier in 1335. The Golden Horde continues, but weakened, divided by its own internal struggles. The Chagatai Khanate fractures, splitting between competing regions that can no longer hold together. There is no single moment where all of it ends at once. It fades, piece by piece, until what was once the largest land empire in history becomes something else entirely. In China, a new order rises. Zhu Yuanzhang, who once lived in poverty and survived the same suffering you witnessed, becomes the Hongwu emperor. He establishes the Ming dynasty, and with it, a different vision of stability. The focus turns inward. Agriculture is rebuilt. Control is tightened, and over time, massive defensive projects begin to take shape, including the strengthening of the Great Wall, designed to protect against the very forces that once ruled this land. If you are still here, still watching, you realize how complete the change is. The Mongols are no longer the unstoppable force you once believed in. They are pushed back toward the steppe, no longer shaping the world in the same way. The roads that once connected continents are quieter now. The system that once held everything together is gone. And what stays with you is not just the fact that the empire ended. It is how it ended. No single enemy defeated it. No final battle destroyed it. It weakened from within. It fractured under pressure. It could not adapt fast enough to the world it had created. You think back to what it once felt like to live inside it. The certainty, the scale, the belief that it would last forever. And now, standing in the aftermath, that belief feels almost impossible, because you have seen the truth for yourself. You conquered the world, but you could not hold it together. For me, this story is not just about the fall of an empire. It is about how power can hide its own weaknesses until it is too late. The Mongol Empire felt unstoppable, yet it slowly came apart from within. I would really like to hear what you think. Was this collapse inevitable, or could it have been prevented? If you enjoy this kind of storytelling, consider subscribing to When History Broke and be part of the conversation.